I'm Pleasure Coach Vireo, and I would love your permission to share a little bit about myself and my story and how I came to be Pleasure Coach Vireo. And like I said, I'm really blessed. I live a very pleasure and joy-filled life. I'm very confident. I can even wear these out in public now. And my life has definitely not always been this way. As a matter of fact, there was a time over a decade ago now, where I was in a marriage that for the last 10 years of it had become what has been labeled as a sexless marriage, just having sex once a month. And no blame to my that first husband, but a very typical scene used to be that I would be laying in bed after we'd have sex, and under the covers I would masturbate. And I can't even call it self-pleasuring because it was so void of pleasure. I was literally just trying to take the edge off. And oftentimes it was really painful. And sometimes, if that first husband, if he wasn't sleeping, I would go to the washroom. And also, at the time we were parents, we had two sons who are now adult sons, and I'm now a grandma. But at that time, even just finding time to be together and have intimacy was super challenging, as you can imagine. And around 2012, I left that marriage, that 17-year marriage, for many reasons, which I won't go into right now. And I had been studying and reading lots, especially David Data's work. And I really got this sense that there was this possibility of having this sacred union of feminine and masculine and finding God through sex. And then I had a tantric lover. And I thought that he was the one. I thought, this is it. Now I have achieved what I've wanted. And after 3.5 years together, he actually left. And I literally was in a puddle of tears, a mess on the floor of my cabin, bent over and sobbing and crying and snot everywhere. I had this huge weight on my chest that just felt like it was crushing me. And I felt really hopeless and really lost. And I basically got down on my knees and I prayed and I called on the divine and I said, help me, please help me. And I heard this voice, and it was this message of be sovereign, Vireo. And I'm sovereign. That was a word I never used before in my vocabulary. But it's like my soul seemed to know what sovereign meant. Sovereign meant my queenly self. Sovereign meant to really love myself, to be solid with my own self. And so I made a vow in that moment to myself to be 13 months with no sex with anybody else, no dating, no relationship, just making love with Vireo, falling in love with myself, rising in love with myself. And around that time, I was very blessed, and the universe, I ended up in Thailand and studied sacred sexuality and sacred femininity in 2017. And I really learned things that I didn't even know. I didn't know about my own female anatomy, my own body. And I started to feel more confident, and I started to love my body and love myself more. Remember the movie When Harry Met Sally? And there's a moment where she's faking orgasm, but she's being orgasmic, and people in the restaurant started saying, I'll have what she's having. And when I came back from Thailand, my friends and even strangers were like, what are you on? We want some of that. We'll have what you're having, Vireo. And at that time, I gave birth to our pleasure program. And women started also feeling more confident, started being able to ask for what they wanted in and out of the bedroom. They started loving their bodies. They started dissolving shame and stepping more lovingly and confidently into their intimacy and into their connection with themselves and with source and their bodies and their sexuality. And in a short while later, I also was introduced to Belief for Patterning. It is a 7-step amazing tool founded by Suze Casey, my coach, friend, and mentor from Airdrie, just outside of Calgary. And over the next months and years, I really developed these tools together and started to support other women and their families and partners in transforming that shame so that they could awaken their intimacy with connection to themselves, first of all, and then with their partners. And that would allow them to live a more fulfilled life. And so if you're yearning for that as well, then my invitation to you, if you've not worked with me before, is gift yourself a complimentary session with me twice a year. I open up Pleasure Breakthroughs. So if you click on that and it's not available, you can add your name to the waiting list. And then I also am offering, if you've not worked with me before, a complimentary belief repatterning half-hour laser coaching session where let's transform something that's not serving you so you can get a sense of how amazing this tool is. And that's the tool that's allowed me to, I'm really an introvert by nature, and it's allowed me to step out into the unknown and be wearing these pussy ears and be serving women so that you, women just like you, can have this confidence and this healthy sexuality as natural and sacred. So if that calls you, click on the link below and gift yourself a pleasure breakthrough. And if that's not available, add your name to the list and a Belief for Patterning complimentary session. I look forward to supporting you, and we'll see you there. Namaste.